Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video where today you join me at Derby Kawasaki, and I've been here all day filming with some of the 2022 models, including this, the Ninja H2 SX SE. Quite frankly, a ridiculous bike with so much power and so much tech. I feel super lucky to have had a few hours getting to know it today, and so here are my 10 favorite features. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, if you've never used a VPN before, let me tell you that it's an invaluable tool for staying safe and maintaining your privacy online. When you connect to Surfshark, your web traffic is encrypted, and this stops unwanted third parties from snooping on you and seeing what you're doing. So it's a great idea, for example, to use Surfshark when you're doing stuff like checking your online banking if you're using a public Wi-Fi hotspot. Not only that, but you can connect to Surfshark servers all around the world, so it can help you to access regionally locked content or to watch shows on your favorite streaming services that might not be available in your country. Given that motorcycle related shows are pretty few and far between, it's nice to have a bit of extra choice, and Surfshark have over 3,000 servers in 65 countries. And the best thing is, they've given me a deal for my viewers, so simply use the code MOTOBOB and you can get a massive 83% discount on their usual rates, as well as 3 months free of charge. So once again, a massive thanks to Surfshark for their support. So let's cut to the chase. The number one best feature of this bike is the engine. It's their big inline-4 with a supercharger, and the power and torque that it makes is seriously impressive. It's my first time on a supercharged Kawasaki, and I was properly impressed by it, even though we were just doing road speeds. Of course, I had a chance to open it up a couple of times, and the power is just immense. But also, for a sports tourer, you want it to have a bit of manners as well, and it is really, really smooth. It's got plenty of torque for when you're doing lower speeds and town work, and then the sound is just awesome. The way it tweaks when you're decelerating is like no other bike. Now, number two on this SE model is that you get their electronically adjustable semi-active suspension. You know, first up with a sports tourer like this, you might have luggage on, you might be two up, or you might be going out for a sporty Sunday ride on your own with the panniers clipped off. And so having electronic preload adjustment through the screen and switchgear is super convenient and makes it really quick to adjust. Then with the semi-active damping, the way it reads the road and the riding style to give you appropriate damping settings, you know, it's perfectly suited to a sports tourer where you could be on the motorway and you want a nice comfy ride, but then you'll peel off and take a sporty road, and that's when it will firm up, when it can sense that things are going a little bit quicker. From what I experienced today, it's a super comfortable bike, but it also handles when you need it to. Also on this SE model, number 3 is the Brembo brakes. Now look, I'm sure that the Kawasaki branded radially mounted brakes on the standard model are perfectly good, but if you're spending 24 grand on a motorcycle, you probably want it to have some bling Brembos. So the SE model gets their M50 calipers, and new for 2022 you get a Brembo radial master cylinder as well. So a top-notch braking setup, and although we weren't charging into corners on a track today, you know, you can still tell that there's plenty of power there and bags of feel through the lever. Another change for 2022 is that the seats have been updated so they're wider and more comfortable, and for me this is a really nicely shaped seat, so it's plenty wide at the back so you can shuffle back when you're cruising along, but then it narrows to the front, and that makes it really easy to get both your feet down at a standstill, and that's going to be some big reassurance for anyone who's a little short in the leg, because this is a pretty substantial bike. Now there's bags of new tech on this bike for 2022, which we'll get onto in a minute, and they've had to redesign the front end to accommodate that radar. While they were at it, they've taken the chance to update the styling, and look, this isn't normally my cup of tea. I like my retros and that sort of thing, and sort of hyper modern sports bikes don't really really do it for me, but when I saw it this morning, I had to say that it really does look impressive. It is a striking design, and also it's really nicely finished. And then this green and black paint job, especially in the green, it has a really nice depth to it that makes it look super premium. Now, like I said, at the front we've got a radar for 2022, and that opens up a couple of features. So firstly, adaptive cruise control, clearly a valuable feature on a sports tourer where you might be doing plenty of motorway miles, but also it surprised me at just how well it works at town speeds. I was following a group of 3 bikes that were changing position, and the radar just had no problem at all following them from sort of 50 and 60 down to traffic lights at a standstill, and it only disables when you get down to 15 miles per hour. At 20 miles an hour, 30, just leave it in second gear and it'll follow the traffic in front of you perfectly. The other thing it does is front collision warning, which might sound a little bit patronizing, or you might not think you'd need it, but I thought it was very well implemented. There are 6 really visible red LEDs along the top of the dash there, and when the front radar sort of detects that you're rolling up to something a little bit too quickly, be that, you know, low speed stuff around town, or when the distances are greater but the speeds are greater, it'll flash up those lights just to give you a bit of a warning. You can configure the adaptive cruise control to follow close or further back or a middling distance, and it's the same with the collision warnings. You can customize the sensitivity of it, and so for me, with that customizability, it's a feature that I'd rather have than not. Now we've got a radar at the rear as well, and that gives you blind spot warnings, so a little light flashes up in the wing mirrors to warn you if there's someone just sat off to the side of you at the back. Now I've ridden plenty of bikes with this feature, and although you would still do a lifesaver to check that there's nothing there before you move over or change lane, it's still a good reminder, because there's plenty of times you look in your mirror and you can't see anything but the lights on, and then when you do look over, you know, there is a vehicle there. So again, it's a feature I'd rather have than not. Now for managing all this stuff, we've got a brand new TFT display, nice and big, nicely laid out, easy to read, and it does include some new phone connectivity features that enable you to get turn-by-turn nav and media playback and all that good stuff. Now that we were focusing on the riding today, so we didn't stop and play with all that stuff, but my favorite feature on this dash is the way it can show you little readouts from the data that you're getting back from the bike. So you can have a bar that shows you how much throttle or brake you're applying. There's a bar that shows how much boost you're getting from the supercharger, and you can also see G-forces fore and aft, and also your lean angle. Now I'm sure all the more practical and sensible stuff is very good, and I hope to get a good chance to test it out in future, but for today I found those little extra readouts just to add an extra element of fun to riding this bike. Not that it really needs it. Now number 9 is the comprehensive list of tech on this bike. On top of the adaptive cruise control, front collision warning, blind spot warnings, semi-active suspension, we've also got plenty of riding modes, lean sensitive rider aids, launch control, hill hold assist, tire pressure monitoring, keyless ignition, an emergency brake light feature, cornering headlights, a quick shifter as standard, heated grips. It really does get the works, and I think if you're going to go out and put big miles in on a bike, it's definitely nice to have all those little toys to play with and the extra safety and comfort that they can offer. And look, you'd expect so for the price, but there really isn't much left that you'd be wanting on this bike. Last up, I was pretty impressed by the luggage on this bike. It's 28 litres either side, so it's not going to compete with a proper full-on tourer, but for a sports tourer, it adds a little bit of convenience, and you can fit a full face helmet in either side. And I also like the design of them. Sometimes these cases can ruin the look of a bike, but I think these ones are pretty complementary to the overall look of the H2SX. They're also nice and easy to get off, and it's got an integrated mounting system, so when they are off, it keeps the back end looking nice and clean and sporty. Overall, I've been massively impressed with this bike today, and I hope to get a press bike for a bit longer to put some more miles in. The only downside is that it is fairly weighty, but I don't think that matters so much for a sports tourer, and it does give it a certain plushness to the ride. And then the other thing's the price, but I mean, what a machine. You know, you're gonna expect to pay a lot of money for something so powerful, so stunning to look at, and so completely rammed with tech. A massive thanks to Kawasaki UK and Derby Kawasaki for hosting me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed this bike as well. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.